What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to this month's anti US statistics update. So, this is some new data showing just how bad things have gotten between Canada and the United States. And, unfortunately, this is kind of becoming a regular thing. The old, anti US stats check in. So, yeah, I gotta say, I honestly don't think that anyone in the current US government, and least of all Donald Trump, expected this kind of a response from Canadians and this passion. I mean, I'd actually say it's really, really impressive and actually kind of cool. If at the same time, if it wasn't so bad for the United States, So I want to take a look at this and see how bad the damage is. So let's take a look.
Canadian visitation to the US is down 35% since President Trump returned to office.
You have got to be kidding me with that. Like, I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it. As an American, that's bad. That's really bad for us. Like, this is like unprecedented, right? And I can't think of anything like this in like modern history where 35% down in like 1 or 2 years or whatever. Like, that's impressive. Again, another part of me is like, you know what? Good for you guys. Like, this is a form of like voicing your opinion, your disapproval, your protesting. And here in the US, like we are supposed to encourage, voicing your opinion and protesting. Like that kind of thing. I think that's cool to do. And Canadians are certainly letting it be known. And making the US feel the pain. Like I said, I really don't think anyone here in the US expected this kind of a response. This is a huge response.
Dealing a massive, sustained economic blow to the US economy that shows no signs of reversing in 2026.
Oh my god. Yeah, so we're already in 2026. And I've taken a look at a couple of updates like this, like as the months have gone on. And every month I feel like, oh, this isn't getting better. And it's like Trump does something else. Trump says something else insane or threatens Canada in a different way or again and then it's like, oh, it's actually getting worse. So yeah, when the narrator guy says like this doesn't seem to be changing this trend, I can't say that I'm shocked because nothing has really happened that would reverse this trend. So at this point, I don't know what the United States could do, will do. I don't think anyone really knows, but Canadians have made your stance on this whole thing known pretty clearly from this stuff.
According to data released Monday from Statistics Canada, the number of Canadians taking road trips into the US, the most common way of visiting, dropped by 5% last month compared to March 2025 and is down 35% compared to March 2024.
30? I can't believe that number. 35% down visiting the US from Canada. That is that's got to be unprecedented. That's it's insane, but at the same time it's not because it's like given everything that Trump and the US government and stuff everything that's going on, everything that's happened, um it's reasonable to expect that Canadians are not happy with us, but this is like this is another level. Like, if anything, I'm learning: do not piss off Canadians. Don't do it. you because you guys really like what a response. Yeah.
There was also a 14% year over year decline in air travelers from Canada to the US in
Wow.
March.
Wow.
In contrast, the volume of Americans visiting Canada in March was up 4% compared to last year.
Ha. Ha. That's interesting. Um, but that also isn't crazy to me. So actually, there was a slight increase in the amount of Americans going to Canada, and I would say that's right in line with what I would think, because Americans, like in general, at least those of us that are like normal, even those of us that are like political, Americans just don't have a problem with Canada or Canadians. Like, and the statistics back that up. Um, I've done other videos looking at like maybe that's not the greatest way of phrasing it. I don't think Canadians necessarily like hate all Americans. I think Canadians have a huge issue with who Americans elected and our government and the US government's policies and decisions and Donald Trump's literal threats and insults, and I think it's more that. So, yeah, maybe Canadians don't have like a big problem with Americans. Like just like Americans have no problem with Canadians or Canada. Like you guys, we are the whoa, I've said this before. Like no one should really be that confused about what's going on here. Now, the magnitude of the response is that's kind of unexpected, I have to say. How big of a response from Canada, but again, impressive. And but no one should be like shocked that there is a response. You know, it's the US that started this whole thing. You know, that's you can go back and watch the tape, watch the recordings, watch the speeches or the statements, go to Trump's tweets. Like we are definitely the ones who started all this.
For the third consecutive month, more Canadians flew to overseas destinations than drove to the US, flipping a long established pattern.
Canadians flew overseas. More Canadians flew to countries overseas than to the wait, what? That took a moment for me to really comprehend. So even though the US has been the number one like travel destination for Canadians. Has that been the pattern for a long time? I mean, it makes sense, like geographically speaking. We're literally connected at the hip. Like, it makes sense that's where a lot of people are going to travel. Especially when you like had no problem with us. So the fact that more Canadians flew. Wait. This is actually unbelievable. This is, yeah, we can't gloss over this one. More Canadians literally got in an airplane and flew, like, for hours to Europe or something, or somewhere overseas, than just driving to the US. Flipping a long established pattern. Yeah, I would I would have thought that would never flip. Like it's so much more easy to just drive from Canada into the US. Like geographically, it's easy, right? Like than to buy an airplane ticket and go to the airport and get on a plane and fly somewhere and book a hotel and get a travel and but more Canadians would rather do all that than drive to the US. Oh my god. That is a statement.
Canadian visitation overseas was up 5% year over year, a sign Canadians are swapping the US for other international destinations.
Oh my god. They don't go over this stuff like on the mainstream American news. Like I think Americans have no I had no idea. I try to somewhat keep up with this stuff and I had no idea it was that bad. Wow.
Nearly a quarter of Canadian travelers have canceled a previously planned trip to the US, according to a Longwoods International Tracking Study of Canadian travelers.
Wow. That's not as mind blowing, but like, I mean, it's 25%. Like, you're canceling you had plans to travel to the US, and 25% of the time you're can't. That's like, when you think about it, that's like significant because that's like going out of your way. You already had planned it. Maybe you already had like tickets or lodging or to cancel that, especially if it's like something you're looking forward to or some event or holiday you planned. Like 25% of Canadians are just willing to say, "No, no, no, I don't care. I will go through the hassle and cancel it. I will do something else rather than go to the US." Wow. And that's just the ones that like they could track in this study. Like maybe it's a higher number in reality.
In the years leading to President Donald Trump's re-election to a second term, Canadian tourists were the biggest single source of international visitors to the US, comprising roughly one quarter of all foreign travelers, according to the US Commerce Department's National Travel and Tourism Office.
Yeah, that's something I really didn't appreciate. Like for my whole life, let's be honest, like I think most Americans just we don't think much about other cultures, other countries, what's going on out there. We're very much in like a bubble. I'll admit it. So I didn't even realize like how much the US economy or tourism, how much we depend on Canadians. Like you make up a huge part of that. Which, thinking about it now, it's like, of course, like geographically, that's probably the number one thing.
In 2024, Canadian tourists injected $20.5 billion into the US economy. But in early 2025, the US Travel Association warned even a 10% reduction in Canadian inbound travel could translate to $2.1 billion in lost spending and 140,000 lost jobs in the hospitality sector.
And maybe this is why we don't like to talk about it, or because it's and certainly our like the U.S. government doesn't want to admit what an epic failure this has been for the U.S. Starting this beef, our policy decisions, our trade wars, the tariffs were ruled illegal. They have to like pay back all the tariff revenue. If you've heard about that stuff, it's such a disaster for the US. Biggest backfire in history. And it's not stopping. Our reputation's ruined. You could go on and on. We're losing billions because Canadians, rightfully so, are upset. Even more substantial, 140,000 jobs. 140,000 American jobs. Americans should be pissed.
The actual decline was 22%, more than
And to be clear, pissed at the root cause of all this. Not not pissed at for me, Canadians like doing this, if you want to call it a boycott, if you want to call it a protest, that's like probably the right response, I would say, actually. That's the appropriate response. Like, can't blame you really at all. This is really a self inflicted thing. So I'm saying Americans should be pissed at our government for starting all this.
double that hypothetical drop, which works out to a drop of roughly $4.5 billion in visitor spending.
So bad.
The boycott continued into 2026, with double-digit declines in both January and February, and cumulative 2-year drops of more than 30% each month. For more on this story, check out the article at the link in the description.
Yeah, okay. So this was by Forbes. You know, thanks to them for bringing this horrifying, depressing information update with their little. I mean, honestly, I like to say it's depressing news if you're an American, but you have to be educated on this. You have to understand what's going on. You can't live with your head under a rock or buried in the sand or whatever. That's no way to live, like in denial. If you're paying attention, I think a lot of Americans aren't, either because we don't like the truth or we're in denial. It's kind of like seeing the decline of the US before my eyes. I hope that's an overstatement, but when you see stuff like this, all this data, and you think about why is this happening and what the US has been doing, the decisions Trump has been making, or posted himself it dressed up like Jesus Christ with glowing hands the other week, or it really makes you worried. As an American, it really makes you worried. For Canadians, I don't know. Um, Things look kind of like hopeful from the Canadian. I did a video recently listening to some of the stuff Mark Carney was saying about the future of Canada, and that at least sounds like exciting. But yeah, this is just, it's not good for the US, and we need to acknowledge this and change and make better decisions and not ignore this, but actually change our course and our decision making based on this. So that's what we need to do. Don't know if that's going to happen. But anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on this new sort of updated data. Canadians are still not traveling to the US. It's unprecedented numbers, really. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canadian things that I haven't seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.